I hope you enjoyed the event last night, the music and the food and the company. It was quite surprising, and I personally enjoyed it. Were you all there? Yes. Yeah. Are you all awake? Okay. So this is the last morning of our conference this year, and we have lined up the most interesting speakers for last. One you know very well, I think by now, it's Sakkie Janse van Rensburg, talking about his second favorite topic, not the most favorite, but second favorite, cybersecurity. We're expecting a lot more people, so if you can just perhaps move in to the center so that they can sit down easily and not disturb us when we're busy. We'd appreciate it.
Ati, you must say when we're ready. I'm in your hands.
They look ready to me, Sakkie. Let's go.
Are we ready? Yes. Okay, yeah. So, Ati, sorry, I first have to apologize. You're the only IT director apart from me that's in here, and I always say at night, it's my favorite place to speak, because it's the people that do the work that's here.
You don't have to apologize. Between the two of us...
Normally the IT directors are not here, but very much, thank you very much.
Between the two of us, we can handle it.
So, just thank you very much. You, like I've said many times before, it's always a privilege to speak at night, because you are the people that makes things happen for us. You are the people that are where the tacky hits the tar. And thank you very much, and I believe from Val it was a wonderful experience so far. I apologize that I couldn't share it with you for the last 2 days, but with no further ado, I'm going to start off and kick off. So from now on, I don't work for UCT, I work for AS Audit, and I'm the Cyber Chair SIG. So what you see here is a presentation I did in Potchefstroom. Sorry for those that have seen it, but Val, due to popular demand, Val said I need to do it at night. So here we go. I've done a little bit of changes at the end. We're just going to do a very small video, 30 seconds. We are, if we got time, I'll do a demonstration on some of the analytics that we do, and I'll talk you through some more detail about my meeting with the FBI. So first of all, I'm the chair of AS Audit CyberSec. The CyberSec sends out notices, and please make sure you register on that so that you can know what we're doing. We've got 2 objectives: skills development and to inform and to alert. So those of you that's on it, you've seen when we get notices from FBI or from Australia or every other of a certs that we are that we are affiliated with, we will immediately notify the mailing list. So the mailing list can be found here. The presentations will be made available later on, and Vala said to me, Sakkie, I will send it out as well. I'm using MailChimp, so please make sure that it doesn't land in the garbage folder, or in the trash, or in the junk. Do that. So first of all, today I'm going to talk about how do we develop a cybersecurity strategy. Now, all of us, sometime in our life, we've been asked to develop a strategy, and it's normally very simple. Oh, sorry, I didn't see this slide coming up. So I just wanted to say, in cybersecurity, it doesn't matter how we spell it, as long as we close all our gaps. So normally, it's very easy to do a strategy. This is what they teach us in business school. Get a map, get a way out that you're going to get there, know where you want to go from A to B, and this is a flight map, and it's normally very easy. You fly from A to B, that's it. Got a plane full of passengers, but at universities it's a little bit different. It's up and down, and we even go off the map sometimes. Everybody's familiar with the term HBD. In the old days, when they carted maps, they will go to one place and then would turn around and come back, and they say, at that boundary, the earth stops there, and here be dragons. So HBD, here be dragons, and it's normally venture capitalists, they use that term when you push the limits and things like that. We know the earth doesn't stop anymore, but we do know that it's not very easy to do that. So I'm going to talk you through about what do you know to do that. We need to understand what map are we going to use. We need to know where we want to go. We know where we are. We need to make sure that we understand that. Otherwise, you can't start planning. We need to know how we're going to get there. Why do we want to get there? What barriers do you have in getting there? And then we're going to say, how do we measure? So the maps are normally very easy. How are we going to get there? There's many security frameworks. You can choose anyone. It'll work for you. I will a little bit later go back and say what have we chosen at UCT and the reasons that we've done that. So this is just to get you in. But any of those people are familiar with that. And then what's not there is the risk framework 33K. That normally plays very close to that as well. So where you are. You can only find it out once you start benchmarking. Once you know what your footprint looks like. So there's many people that can do that for you. You can ask Sandrine, and I think a lot of universities already ask Sandrine to do a vulnerability scan for us. You can use BitSight, that does it on a daily basis, and I'll do a BitSight demo if we got some time at the end. You need to do penetration testing, we know that, because it changes from day to day. Vulnerability scanning, your C-level reports, you need to report to your council, or to your boss, or whoever, about what's going. And there's a number of different incidents reports that you have to put forward as well. Some of the reports will be confidential, but you can't play out, but you will know when breaches has happened. The next one is where do you want to go? You can build some awareness. Do we really want to be the best or whatever? Maybe you just want to build some awareness. Maybe you just want to monitor and respond. Maybe you want to build cybersecurity strategy or a capacity, train some people. You want to appoint a cyber information security officer. They come back very expensive. We normally know some universities is privileged enough to already have security officers. We don't. Do you want to establish a CSIRT, Cyber Security Incident Response Team? It's not that difficult. I'll tell you later what we did at UCT. Without any additional money. Do you want to become the Cyber Emergency Response Team for higher education? That's the guys that need to help us when we're in trouble. We haven't got that currently. Or do you want to outsource your security? Like Alice, the famous story, and everybody has seen that, when she said to the cat, where does these roads lead to? Depends where you want to go. Alice said, I don't know where I want to go. She said, then any road will take you there. But as long as you take that, you have to start. You cannot just sit there and wait for your boss to send you a mail about Pattaya. Everybody knows about Pattaya, the outbreak over the last couple of days. So even cash machines going down, we see tools going down, all of that. And this time it's targeting your boot sector. So it makes your PC into just tin and electricity, nothing happening inside there. So that is some of the problems that we will be facing. You need to consult, find out what does your community want? What do they expect from you? Because the minute they see your logo on there, whether it's MUT or UCT or NWU, they will trust you. Or rather, they would think they can trust you. So you need to be ready on that. Take small steps. We know if we look at Gartner, they say you can kill it with too much money. You can really, and especially in an academic environment, we have to tread very carefully between academic freedom and the control. We know that we have data and instruments that can't even sit behind a firewall because the firewall is too slow. We have to move them to science DMZs. So you have to think about that. How do you protect that as well? And you need to keep track of your progress in the report. Why? People need to know what's happening. Cybersecurity is on everybody's lips. And I think, I'm going to try and make a statement. It might be easier to say, who's never been affected by a cyber incident? The first one that I heard of was early in the 90s. We started the very first ISP in a place called Bloemfontein. And somebody in Cape Town, our supplier in those days, he said to me, yesterday 2 bicycles rocked up at his yard, brand new bikes. He said his sons used his credit card to order himself bicycles online. So that was the first incident that I was with. Since then, many times, my phone has rung 2 o'clock at night. Nedbank saying, where are you? I'm in bed. Oh, well, somebody's buying shoes in New York. That kind of stuff. It happens. Because you're not always in control of your environment. So that's the kind of stuff that happens to us. Why do you want to do that? You know, cybersecurity is more than just keeping your notebook under your mattress when you go to bed at night. It's the risk. Did your boss tell you to do it? Or do you want to control everything? We get that as well. We see that people want to lock down everything, control it, and make it difficult. Or do you want to do it just because everybody else is doing it? And I'm talking about it, and everybody is, and you read it in the mail, things like that. Or do you want to do it because King 4 recommends that you do it? Good governance. Where's Chris? Chris, if you're watching, governance, my friend, plays a very important role for us here. So what barriers do you have? Your organizational culture, the tone at the top. Does your management accept that cyber risk is real? Do they support you in that? What's their willingness to respond if an incident happens, to help you, to support you? Policy making. Anybody in any university that's got it right to put a policy through quick. If you get it right, please, I'll pay for it. How to do it. We've been trying 2.5 years to get our cybersecurity policies through. It's been referred back again by Senate this time. So that's the responsibility and influence. You're going to need people to help you to do that. Simplicity versus complexity. Complexity kills security. You have to do it simple, step by step. Budget. Have you got budget? Does it feature on your budget list? Does it say cybersecurity there? Who's got a cybersecurity budget? Just show of hands. So we're all in trouble. I managed to do it, I think, as well. So, but only after 2 years of trying and severe incidents. So things has to happen sometimes before you get that. Political and the physical environment, we know as fees must fall. That is a problem for us. Is your data center under threat? Technology, the age of technology. How quick does people adopt technology in your institution? We know academics or anybody flies overseas, they buy a new device. They come back, they want to put it on your network. Are you prepared for that? Age of your technology. How old is your access points? Can you still patch them? XP. Who still runs XP? Are we the only university? Good, we got a problem. I saw you somewhere. I don't think we're the only university that still run XP. So it is a problem. Thank God Microsoft saved our backsides by patching. They're going to have a problem to maintain that now because they've once done it, they've done it a second time for us, and that's going to be your adoption rate. Quickly, I spoke about that. We know the law moves very slowly. It takes time for it to move. But I can tell you, you won't have a luxury of moving slowly anymore. You'll have to be ready to respond. You'll have to be ready to react when that happens. Where does your payload sit? Who knows exactly where all their payloads are at a university? No, we don't. We got an idea, but I tell you, we are wrong. I'll tell you later what happens on payloads. What do you want to protect in your short term, medium term, and long term? What do you want to do? What do you want to do first? 8th layer. Who knows the TCP/IP model? Everybody does. They can most probably cite it. Layer 8's missing. People. People, very important. Because they are most probably where our risks sit. And I'll talk about that, our experience. Integrated approach, everything touch everything. It's complicated. Your measurements, those of you that were at the ALI dinner, I spoke about how important it is to measure, how important it is. And later on I'll talk about that again, that we need to know what's happening. We need to measure, and we need to know what our progress is. Our progress is not coming down from 2.6 million denial of service attacks to 1 million. That's not progress. Progress is how do we go from one stage to the next one and take that. Your endpoint environment, I think is most probably one university that I know of, Northwest, that controls their endpoint. Is that correct? But much better than I think most of us, unless I'm wrong, but other universities control their endpoint very well. SCADA, the monitoring, the controls for electricity, the geysers, water facilities in the reses, we don't control that, but it sits on our network. There's going to be problems for us. Right, so I'm going to take you through what map that we use at UCT. And please, this is not a Bible. This is not a rule. This is not a law. This is just what we had to do in the time. So I'm going to speak from now on. What did we learn? The mistakes we've made, and how do we go forward? Welcome, Kipo. Great. Okay. Where we are, what do we want to? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? And why do we want to be there? What barriers do we have? And what are we using to measure and taking forward to understand where we are? So the very first thing we did, we had to decide on the framework. Frameworks could be complicated. We know banks love 27K because it's complicated, it's nice, it frames in. But we decided to use the NIST framework. The NIST framework was developed in, please bear with me, I think 2015, 2014. It was a presidential order under President Obama to say, develop a simple framework for us to measure cybersecurity. It's nice and simple. It matches onto COBIT. All of us understand COBIT. Our auditors love COBIT. So the closer you get to that, and that's the reason what we did. And when we saw it, it made sense to us. The gut feel, there was a gut feel of doing that. And we adopted this in 2015, October, around there, when we had our very first meeting about cybersecurity at Dolphin Beach. Not Dolphin Beach, I keep on forgetting what it's called. So this is what we use, and it's simple. It's identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Not very complicated. You can go and read it under Wikipedia. It makes sense. It's not that complicated, so we decided to use that, and you'll see later on how this fits into our strategy. So where we are safe as houses at UCT, and I'm lying. We had one major hacking incident that brought down the whole Cape Town ring. Later affected the later CECOM. Our African Research Cloud facility was taken over by hackers, and they decided, with so much compute, only they can attack the Chinese, and they did. And there was so much bandwidth going through there, and when I heard about that, I just said, oh God, Duncan is going to kill us, because if this is what research do to us, we're in trouble. We've underplanned completely. What happened? Mistake. Somebody left an ACL of a switch. There's no firewall. We had a full 10 gig available for us to attack. Only way we could do it, pull the plug and rebuild. Everything sits in VMs, things like that. Nobody could help us, guys. I didn't have a Ghostbusters number, otherwise we would have called them. We called Tenet, we called Sunren, Morocco, everybody. Nobody could assist us with that attack. And it's going to happen again. We will try for it not to happen again. We currently got one staff member on a 15-year vacation sponsored by the state president. He's in jail for 15 years. It's true. Cyber crimes are crimes. And it's not, the law doesn't take it easy anymore. They focus on it, they act. We had one incident that we labeled as a cyber terrorist attack. I don't want to talk too much about that because that's still an investigation. I did have a call from the FBI to demand the data. I could not release it because our law says we can't. Anything I could do, I could put them in contact with our lawyers and say our lawyers will guide them through the right channels in South Africa to get the data. I'm waiting for the Anton pillar to come and arrive at my desk. I'm waiting for the black cars to demand that data. It's going to happen. Hacking of state infrastructure. I had a mail from Colonel Swanepoel. Somebody at UCT, this IP address is hacking the South African Police Services. Okay, needless to say, it was true. Our BitSight score, when we started off, was at 450. We managed to push it up to 540. We're down to 510 again, or 520. We had many takedown notice before we ran BitSight from the movie industry, the TV industry, things like that. We had a lot of those things. We still have about 2.8 million denial of service attempts per day. We had one CEO phishing during Fees Must Fall. Somebody tried to impersonate the Vice-Chancellor. Can you imagine if that went out? How much damage that could have been to UCT? We had 2 unauthorized use of a UCT email system. They didn't hack into the systems. They were using our mailing lists. They were gathering mailing lists and spamming everybody with that. And I had a budget of 0, like all of you. So where do we want to go as UCT? We just want to take the first step from awareness, because we've been awareness building a lot, to building a cybersecurity capacity at UCT. What that capacity looks like, we don't know. But what I do know, we can't do it alone. We're going to rely on partners, we're going to rely on colleagues like you to help us building that capacity and taking that forward. Not only for UCT, but everybody can learn from there. So we're taking. So what have we done so far? So the very first thing, we said we haven't got money, we haven't got people, so we got a virtual team. Say, you are the CSIRT team from tomorrow. No, we didn't do it like that. We said, we want to work on a CSIRT. We had too many people putting their hands up, and we established a CSIRT. Very easy. You can use your standard NOC operation procedures. But drive awareness that you have got a CSIRT. Create your CSIRT address, csirt@ufs.ac.za or at Sun. So when they mail, they don't have to look for Sakkie.Jansen-van-Rensburg@uct. It's quick. People know that. A team gets that mail, we immediately start acting on that. We got procedures to act on that. Consult. We did a lot of consulting. We spoke to many people. We consult in the industry, out of the industry. In 2015, We brought John Tannehill over to do the CSX training. We've put the invite to all universities. Only one university responded, and we trained 76 staff members of UCT and 4 staff members of UWC at that incident there. It was free. It cost me 90,000 rand to do that training, but we had to do it. After that training, staff should be capable of writing the CSX exam at ICASA. We educate. We try day after day after day to try to educate people. I speak to senior management. I speak to the risk committee. I speak to all over the university. I speak to senior staff members and things like that. And we monitor. And if you read my article that was in the Mail and Guardian about cybersecurity, I said our users are doing great until Kipo arrived. I'll talk about that. We're developing skills, starting from basic, things like that. We educate. Then we did the phishing attack. Simulated phishing attack. Nobody knew about that, apart from Kipu, myself, and Andre Leroux. It hit UCT. By 8 o'clock that morning, we had the first call lock at CSIRT. Things were working. We were sending out 6,100 mails. 648 made it through the system before our systems kicked in and understood it was a phishing attack. We stopped it. So great, things were working. Until I received a very well written report. Matt, one of the best reports I've ever seen. What do you think our click-through rate was? 43% of it, 600. Clicked on that link. 33 people filled in their username and password. Okay. You understand? After all that effort, and I later spoke to one of the Gartner analysts about this. You know, the shock, going into depression. So, and they gave me a paper that showed you can train. Training will only be 20% efficient. But if you should start doing phishing attacks, your efficiency will go down to about 20, to, you know, your success rate will, or your failure rate will only be 20, not 80%. You'll have about 60% improvement on that. So consider that, doing that. How are we going to get there? We're running Cybersecurity Symposium Africa from the 17th, sorry, it's from the 16th, the opening is there, till the 19th of July. The 20th of July, you know that our first SIG meeting will happen, and the discussions about establishing a CERT, a Cyber Emergency Response Team in South Africa for higher education will start. We are doing live cloud-based reports to council, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Our suppliers that's helping us, Mint, is in the office, in the room here. And our budget went from 0 to hero. We got 1.6 million rand. I visited University of Canterbury, and he said he's battling with his cybersecurity budget. I said, how much? $6.4 million. Okay, so again I felt, ugh. The problem is we're not going to get that kind of money. We're not going to see it. Collectively, we're not going to see it. So we'll have to think different. And we know in Africa we can think different. We can make things change. And we can do it different than anybody else. So why do we want to get there? Cybersecurity now shares one of the top spots, top risks at University of Cape Town. It was adopted by council. We got 13 risks that's labeled number 1. It's one of them. It shares the space of urban unrest, political environment, fees. That's how serious we are taking cyber security at UCT. You have to get it onto council's agenda. Because principle 1 says in governance, who's accountable for cybersecurity? Council is. We are only the custodians. By the nature of our job, we're executing it. By the nature of a job of a registrar, by the owners of the information. So again, it's a partner we can't do with that. So we want to do it because it's a risk. We've managed to get it onto the risk register. We battled, the highest a risk can be at UCT is a score of 21. And when I was presenting my risks, somebody presented before them and they had a risk of 21 and they were taken apart by the chair of council. We presented ours and they adopted 3 risks at 21, all cybersecurity risks. They understood how important it is for UCT to happen. And the other thing is we have to protect. We have to protect our users, we have to protect our data, and just do that. What barriers did we have? None of the above. We had culture, budget, culture, skills, culture. It's our biggest problem. Because the minute you start talking security, people think you want to control. And you don't want to control. You want to enable. So principle 1 says, council is responsible for, accountable for cybersecurity. Number 2 says that we will enable the university with cybersecurity. We will support research and we will support teaching and learning. Number 3 says we can't do it alone. It's everybody's problem. That's our 3 principles that we try and work towards that. Now, strategy, there's only one thing wrong with strategy, is there's no M in strategy. People don't monitor it, don't measure. So, what do? We try and measure what we do. The things that we measure is, first of all, how many Facebook posts we do, tweets, articles, emails, and things like that. How much mail gets rejected, how much mail doesn't. And you can see it dipping when holidays and things like that because the amount of email gets less. We do a CSIRT report. This report goes to council 4 times a year. Currently, we got, and this is extracted from our report a month ago, we had 1 criminal investigation going. That number has since escalated. We had 1 major unpatched vulnerability and we had identity and data exposure, 29 incidents of that. Other sources, low and medium risks. That is the risks that we attack every day. So what do we measure? If you want to one day adopt the NIST report, the NIST framework, NIST framework reports very easily into COVID. So you can see NIST IDAM1 reports to those COVID measures, and if you use something like BitSight, you'll get a score. And your auditors will be happy because you prove the source of where it's coming from. What do we measure? This is intrusion detection. We can see botnets going here. But not only can we have a look at what ours look like, UCTs, and this is not UCTs. I'll pull this on Microsoft Office 365 on their domain. So we pulled that, and you can see in December 2016 they've managed to start cleaning out things. We certainly haven't switched off Office 365 because we still use it every day. So they have succeeded in doing something. I don't know what, and nobody can tell me. How do they manage to do that? Well, mine is escalating, and I'll show you in the demo. So how are we going to measure? So we know we get the BitSight report, we get McAfee data, we get Fortinet data from the firewalls, things like that. We pull it into Azure Data Factory, and this is this system here is built by us, for us by Mint, and I'm sure we can replicate it at any other place. We've now done it. It's easier to do that. So we pull the data, Azure Data Factory is the API engine that we pull it in. We're not taking anything to Azure Data Warehouse because Azure Data Warehouse is too expensive. Costs you something like 500 Rand a day. I haven't got that kind of money for the amount of data that we pull through. So we pull it now into Azure SQL, and as you know from about a month ago, Microsoft has now made Azure Report Writer available through the BI side as well to Azure SQL. And then the main reason why we want to automate that is to have it in Power BI. No, that's not the main reason. The main reason is I got sick of kissing, licking, kicking backsides to get reports. So we automated. Now I don't have to bother anybody for reports anymore. I don't get forensic data. I only get the report that council wants to see. And that's the whole objective. Make it automatic, make it happen, make it repeatable. Then you've done it. Then when you got all of that together, put it in a bowl, you shake it. And out comes a strategy. This is our strategy. So you can see some of it resonates, some of it's completely changed. And I'll talk to you why we've changed some of it. First of all, we believe everything should be held together by governance. That is the center of our strategy. But you can't wait for that to be in place. Because government, to get governance systems in place take years for us to do that and to get that. We know we have to protect, and I'm not going to read all through that. We have to respond to when things happen. We have to educate. That layer 8, our biggest problem. And you'll see later on when I talk about the meeting with the FBI, what happened. And you have to measure. So you have to know what progress you make, and you have to report on the right things that you want to measure to take that through. So what's my time like? Who's timekeeper? 2 minutes? 5 minutes, okay. So I'll come back to that. Again, Cybersecurity Symposium running from the 17th to the 19th. What is happening there? We've got a book launch. People that's been at ALI will know Professor Nick Tate. He's a PhD in cybersecurity, and his son is a cybersecurity lawyer. And they've written a book, What the Board Should Know About Governing Information Technology and Cybersecurity. And people joining the conference will get a copy of that. We have the South African police, Colonel Niemand, talking to us. She's just been trained by the FBI, so we'll get some input from her. We've got Veronica Banks, everybody knows her, from the Child Pornography Unit, and I think many of us has had contact with her. We'll have legal people talking about the law, the new cybersecurity law, what's happening. We're going to do live hacks. We're going to take, can we have a volunteer? Which university can we attack that day? No, we won't. No, we won't. We will just demonstrate how easy it is to hack into a system and to do that. Our partners is Dimension Data. They've signed up for a 3-year partnership with us. Kipo also came to the table with a platinum sponsorship. Microsoft, Penny says I should say they did nothing. No, they didn't do give us any money, but they made a name available for us. So we're flying somebody in from Turkey to come and speak to us about cybersecurity. One of the second best speakers in cybersecurity, most probably in the world, second to Troy Hunt. Does anybody follow Troy Hunt here? Yes, we got it here. Yeah, so Troy is with F5 on board and many other coming aboard at the moment. I think BCX is coming, Penny. You need to help me out here. We've got a long list of partners. Much longer list. And then I can also confirm that we've secured a presentation by the Chinese CERT. I mean, cybersecurity most probably is controlled the best in the world. So we're going to find out from CN CERT about what they're doing. So that will be great. And there's many other international speakers coming there. Please visit cssa.ac.za, register. So the next steps, what are we going to do? We can't just leave cybersecurity, especially not if the AS Audit Board asks me to start driving the SIG. And if you notice, the SIG is spelled correctly, S-I-G, not S-I-C-K. So some of the SIGs are not that healthy. So cybersecurity is running. Please register. We run the third workshop on the 20th. And you'll be notified by the SIG mailing list. Make sure you subscribe on that. Then the registrars, a group of 5 registrars, 6 if UCT is included, approached me to say, what is our stance as higher education against cybersecurity? How are we going to react? How are we going to, our approach to that? What statements are we going to make from higher education part? So there's a meeting is going to be set up with registrars and IT directors, so prepare yourself that your registrar might ask you to attend the meeting. We're going to do the first CyberSig meeting. We're going to talk about the governance structures for the SIG, our skills development plan, and what budget we need to take that forward. So I just want to do one switch over to quickly. And I hope this works. So cybersecurity SIG, just to remember the dates. Thank you. So remember that, and then I just want to take you quickly to the slide here. This is the recommendation that the FBI, when they presented in Australia, and afterwards you can go and Google the presentation. It's by Jeff Lanza. He's the author of Pistols to the Press. So number 1, educate your employees. Strengthen your perimeter. I think somebody here, FortiGate, said to me, oh, you got more than one technology. Yes, we have more than one technology. And we will have more than one technology. Back up your data. I think we saw that coming out yesterday with Pattaya, that we will recommend to do that. Everybody, the recommendation from the other certs that came out. Test your backup. Doesn't mean you just have to do it. Use layers of security. Update and patch. What's your patch vulnerability like? Do your present penetration testing and disable untrusted Microsoft Office macros. Still with us. Thank you very much. Anybody later can ask me for more information about the BitSight demo, but I won't have time to do that.
Any urgent questions for Saki while he's here? No questions. I think it's Cape Town has done a very good job so far in terms of their strategy and the way they approach security. I think the feeling with most of us is that we have to catch up and we have to clean our own operations and our own offices to be ready for the threats that are coming. And we'll learn from you. And we'll help you.
Thanks,
to improve. All of that can be done in the SIG. So please join the SIG and let's do it together and improve the whole country's preparedness for all of these threats. Thank you, Saki. I'll see you on the 16th, you said? 16th. Okay, good. Thank you.
Starting the opening is at
our next speaker, Baron Pretorius from Northwest University, also on the topic of cybersecurity. So, Baron, I think you had a good introduction. We're looking forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Saki. Val just knows how to establish a hard act to follow this early in the morning. Well, let's just give it a second so we can get this presentation up. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this morning, even though some people do look a little bit more... Can you guys hear me better now? Okay. Even though some people do look a little bit more tired than others. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this presentation, I need you to take out any formal identification. So, any picture ID, please. No, I'm serious. I need you guys to identify yourselves to me. So, take out a picture ID and just hold it up for me. I'm going to walk past and I just need to see you are who you say you are. No, can I see? No, no, seriously. Thanks, Phil. Oh, yeah, you're good. Can I see your ID, please? No. Seriously. Okay. Old school ID book. Okay, so not a new. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks. So how many people live in a gated community or work in a gated community? We need to swipe in with your card each day. Just show our hands. How many people live or work in a gated community where you need to swipe in with a card or present your driver's license each day? Just with a show of hands. Okay, everyone. Do you ever question where that data goes? We just hand over our cards. We give our driver's license to the guy at the rental company. He scans our card. I just stole 3 identities by taking pictures. Thanks, Val. My new swimming pool pump will be great. So we give away our information freely. And that's what this talk is about. So the issue isn't necessarily the guy sitting in a dark, dingy room trying to hack our servers. We can have endpoint protection for days. We can have the best firewalls. We can have Palo Alto. We can have Fortinet. We can have whatever we like. The real risk we run is ourselves. So look at those words and just have them resonate a bit. What we're going to go through is, at the Northwest University, we are busy, we're still busy, running a cyber phishing campaign against ourselves. We're making use of the services of Kipu for this exercise. And I'm going to report back on our current experience. I'm going to show you guys some statistics. And when we look at this, we just realize, I don't need to hack a system. I hack the person. Because if you hack the person, you have usernames and passwords. I have access to all kinds of information just by having a social discussion with the person. That you can extrapolate, and then you got usernames and passwords and all that kind of stuff. So the real issue that we need to look at is educating our end users and really just trying to protect ourselves. So I just want to play you guys a quick video. So how do you define risk? We all look at risk differently. Some of us see driving to work as a risky activity because you need to cross the road. Some people see jumping off a mountain as a risky activity. For myself, it's not. Some people look at giving your credit card details. If I asked the same question this morning to you, where I asked, take out your IDs. If I said, take out your credit card, I'd like to take a picture of it. How many of you would actually question it? Everyone, because you won't give me your credit card details. Because that's something that's instilled into us, is that we don't give away banking details. But in actual fact, you type it into a browser. You don't necessarily use the PIN pad on the screen. You type it in. There's keyloggers. There's all that kind of stuff. So just for interest's sake, I've got a whole lot of videos on my laptop of a load of colleagues here sitting, working, logging into servers, logging into banking details. If you'd like your credentials, I'll approach you later and tell you what happened this week, because I sat behind you in sessions while you were busy downloading videos on torrents and doing stuff through HTTPS, and that's why we had slow internet connections most of the time as well. Stellenbosch. So just by sitting behind you, looking over your shoulder, I got a few usernames and passwords and some other information, which I recorded, by the way. It's on my phone. So I'm going to approach you guys later and have a chat about that. But yeah, now seriously, so we need to be more vigilant. So what we did at the Northwest University is we committed to a 6-part phishing campaign with Kipu, the security guys. We decided to target our staff and students. And the reason for this is, even though the staff have access to different systems, like financial systems and student systems with their credentials, the fact is a student can still log in, he can use the VPN details, he can get within our network. So if his username and password leaks out, a cyber terrorist can get access to our mailing system and spoof that user, send out mail still. So any username and password is a threat, irrespective of whether it's a student or whether it's the DVC of some other department. Okay, so there's some stats at the bottom. As you'll see, we did a baseline. So you'll see that we have a campaign 1B, campaign 2, and campaign 3. Campaign A I didn't list here, that was our baseline. And that's when we just did a smaller phishing campaign to establish how in trouble we really are. And from that, we realized we actually do have a problem, and we extrapolated it, and we started with some different campaigns. The campaigns are focused at phishing users, getting information from them, but also educating them. So if a user falls for one of our phishing attacks, they are informed afterwards that they've been phished. They do get an educational program where they go through training. It's not mandatory, and we'll get to that now in a bit as well. And that's something that we as an institution need to talk about, and not just as an institution, but as higher education, is making this mandatory. Because if you give somebody an option to do something, they're not going to do it necessarily if it isn't going to give them something in return that they feel they need. And most people think they know how to protect the user and password. Okay, so just some stats. On our first campaign, we sent out 34,463 emails. Out of those, the first campaign was a click link, so it was a link that was sent out, and then I'll show you an example of what the emails look like as well. And we asked the users to enter their details to confirm they are who they say they are, like I did this morning. And out of those 34,463 emails, we actually got 1,143 clicks, and people that entered their full credentials, legitimate credentials, 1,545. 1,545 usernames and passwords, ranging from top executives down to students that just gave up their credentials voluntarily, and that can be used by the person on the other end to gain access to the system. The second campaign we ran was a little bit differently. The fact is, most of us receive documents in PDF format or Word documents and so forth from various people, and I'm sure most of you, as myself, receive invoices for payments due now from companies that you've never heard of, and just open up the invoice attached and stuff like that. So that's what we went with. We sent out a Word document with Macros in. If the user opens it, the Macros sends some feedback to us, telling us the document's been opened, and it grabs some information off their PCs. And with that, with that campaign, we sent out 74,478 emails, or 76 emails, and we got 733 people that opened the document and whose PC didn't have a firewall blocking the outgoing connections, where we actually gathered information from those devices. So that's 733 PCs which were exploited. Our most recent campaign we sent out 97,967 emails. So the reason for the high number of emails is all our staff and all our students, and it includes our distance students. On that, we had a click-through of 3,254 users that clicked on the link. People that actually entered valid credentials was 1,621. 1,621 usernames and passwords, which are legitimate, which verify, and people just gave them up. If you look at this, can anybody tell me if this is a real login page to the Northwest University or not? Yes or no? Just yes or no? Real? Real? No. Okay, good. We'll get back to this. Okay, so the bait we sent out, this is our most recent phishing campaign, is the email was addressed to the person specifically, so it calls them by name. And we told them we're going to cancel your email. So if you don't want us to cancel your email, click on this link and go type in your username and password and verify it. As you can see, there's nothing linking this to university. There's no specific mention of IT. The URL it came from is a ghost URL. It kind of looks like ours. It's nw.something.something.something, and very extrapolated as well. And still people fell for it. If you look at this screen compared to the previous one, real or not? Okay, so this is the one they got on the click-through, and then they were asked to enter their email address and password, because that's what we use to authenticate most of the times within the institution, is our email address and password. And the email address can be linked back to your staff number as well. So even though they don't enter their staff number, like they did in our first campaign, where we actually asked them, enter your staff number and your password. Here they enter email address and their password, and we can use that to log in. And they got a screen, and just afterwards, thank you, IT services, and that's it. And then they were redirected to our NW homepage. Nobody questioned it at all. So the stats there, as you can see, the numbers I mentioned previously. And the campaign ran over a few days, and you'll see there, it just didn't spike. So it's not that on the first day the mails went out, everybody clicked on the link. Some of those messages lingered in a mailbox for a day or two, people got around to checking it later, and then they entered it. So phishing is a patient sport. It's not something that necessarily happens on the spot. You put a line in the water and you go down, you have a beer, and you wait for something to happen. And eventually you might get a bite. After you've been phished, you receive an email which states that you've been phished about Northeast University with our partner Kipu. In this whole exercise, we try and educate the user a bit about what's going on. And then there's a whole education website which we put up with Kipu, where the user goes and they do quizzes and they get more information on different kinds of phishing and malware and all that kind of stuff. And the feedback was, we sent out 1,518 awareness emails. 215 of those people actually went to the website to have a look at what is going on there. So that's a very small percentage, 14.16%. Out of those, people that actually did the quizzes were 41. There were 41 people who actually thought, I might need to know more about what is phishing and how vulnerable am I. And out of those 41 people, the correctness of the answers they gave was 31.82%. So they also still didn't know how incorrect they were in giving away information. This is something that I feel, as mentioned previously, should be mandatory. When we do a new staff introduction campaign at university, when you start working there, they got all kinds of introduction programs. Cybersecurity should be part of that. We should train our users, we should train ourselves about what is a threat, what is a legitimate email, what is not a legitimate email. This is the previous campaign I mentioned where we sent out a document. So this one we promoted a voucher. So you'll see the promotion at nw-gmail.com is the URL it came from. And it's from a Promotions United team with a very funky telephone number at the bottom. And this email went out to the end user, and what was inside was a voucher with a QR code. And the actual issue we had with this was we had students that printed this out, went to our cafeteria and our mess halls. They went and had them, and afterwards they wanted to redeem their coupon because they wanted their discount. So that kind of was something we had to work through and explain to the people that it's not real. And it just goes to show that there is a real financial aspect towards phishing as well, because now a student was under the idea that he was going to save some money, and he didn't. It ended up costing him the same. On that specific campaign, as mentioned, there was 733. We are going to run 3 more campaigns throughout the year, and we're going to try and do it differently than the previous 3. With the previous 3, we kept a very hush-hush. We didn't even notify the service desks. The emails went out, stuff started happening, got call queries back from end users saying this and this looks funky, or the service desk started calling. They later blocked the mails so they don't go through it, ended up in spam. And that's the kind of thing we want. We want them to be reactive, but prefer if people were proactive and actually just not open the email, identify it. So with the next 3 campaigns, we're going to do education beforehand. We're busy working on a strategy to do a little bit more awareness before we start phishing the people again, and see if it makes a difference by making this part of the everyday conversation. The talk they have around the coffee machine in the morning is this mail legitimate? Is this invoice I received actually something I should open? Should Val give me a ID number so I can open up a credit card and buy myself something fun? Stuff like that. Is security the university's responsibility or the end user's responsibility? And the honest answer is it's all of our responsibility. Okay. So I thank you for your time. Ati says I bored you enough now. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to either talk to me afterwards or send me an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Barend. Those statistics are scary. Sasaki, a question quick.
William.
William.
Yeah.
Okay.
The operations team didn't flag as a stand email.
Seems.
There was no issue with it. Okay. Because as you saw in the URL, it's nw@gmail.com. And for some other reason, even with the large volume of emails, you presume that the system flagged it.
So our problem is that when you hover over the link, it shows the Mimecast address. It doesn't show where you're talking to. It doesn't give you that. So that people click on it only when they get to the other side, and now we're going to have a problem. And by clicking on it, Mimecast, you might be executing code. Anybody got an answer for that? So we remain in trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is William Petherbridge from Fortinet. So we're sticking to the security topic. Thank you, William.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is William Petherbridge. I'm a systems engineer for Fortinet. Been in the security industry for more than 10 years, and what we're seeing happening is actually quite scary across the industry. So we deal with from the education sector to financial to typical corporate environments, enterprises. But I think if you look at these statistics currently, education is has a huge challenge going forward. I mean, it's the third most breached sector. If we look at it, 150 institutions hacked or compromised in 2016, 4.4 million records stolen. And then if we look at the UK, 1 in 3 universities are hit by a successful cybersecurity attack. Now, like Saki said earlier, there's a lot of technologies and a lot of things that we put out there, yet these things still happen. Now, why does it happen? All right? I think one of the questions is, or answers is really looking at what type of information and what type of environments a university has. Right? So if we look at academic records, it might be students' information. If we look at, there was a university, I think it's Cambridge, that was compromised to actually hack academic records and change exam numbers or what do you call it, their marks, right? So it's becoming a huge issue. I mean, at the moment, a university or a higher education type of environment has a problem where certifications or degrees and things like that is compromised. When we look at the actual grades that students are getting, huge problem. Personal data when it comes to ID numbers, addresses, those type of things, and then intellectual property, stuff that the university actually develops and working on, researching, big money behind those type of things. So why are universities actually so prone to these things? If you look at the type of environments, it's a very diverse, open type of environment. So we've got typically research branches, bring your own devices for students, faculty members, administrative branches, guest access, academic branches, IoT, like Saki said earlier, SCADA type of environments, where things that typically did not connect to the network is now connecting to the network. So it's really coming down to a unique attack surface that the corporate environments are not prone to. So perfect storm for hackers, right? Because of a very open type of environment, very dynamic, it keeps on changing, and heterogeneous, various types of methods connecting to the university's type of environments. The challenge is it becomes many breach points. There's a lot of ways actually accessing the university's environments. Very exposed, unpatched systems, old systems, XPs, Windows NT4s, those type of things. And then, you know, malware propagation. It becomes very easy for malware to get into the environment and really spread around because of the openness of the environment. So the president of Maryland University actually said security in a university is very different than the private sector because we are an open institution. There are many points of access because it's all about free exchange of information, right? And I think that is the problem. It's the higher education or university or schools, it's very different. It's really for you guys to collaborate and share information. It's not supposed to be a typical corporate closed type of thing. So we had to find the proper balance between security and access. And that is the big challenge, right? We can lock everything down, we can segregate things and make things secure as possible, but at the end of the day, then it becomes almost impossible for the people to communicate. So here's the million-dollar question, right? How do I secure my university environment while keeping it open? So first of all, how much performance do we need? I mean, the universities by far has the biggest bandwidth compared to any type of a corporate environment. I mean, you guys are talking 1 gig connectivity, 10 gig connectivity, and the next steps are probably going to be 40 or 100 gig. You know, there is no corporate environment that is talking about these type of bandwidths. It's just too expensive, right? What level of protection do we need? How, you know, do we need next generation firewalling? Do we need antivirus? We can't do antivirus or endpoint protection like we did in the traditional, or do in the traditional corporate environments. Unmanaged devices, laptops, iPads, like Saki said earlier, you know, somebody, an academic goes overseas, comes back with a new device, he wants to connect it on the network. How do we guarantee connections to my students and staff? Wireless, wired, you know, how do the guys actually get to the information and share the information? And then how do I control all these devices connecting to my network? So the traditional approach is siloed solutions, right? You've got antivirus. Let me just do this quickly. You used to have antivirus, you used to have standalone firewalls, you have a wireless type of environment, and you've got web filtering, all things, you know, separate technologies, not sharing information, not being communicating or actually integrated. So from our perspective, you know, it's actually to consolidate these technologies, start bringing things together, and we actually refer to, I've got a slide on it, the Fortinet Security Fabric. It's having these various technologies actually all talking to each other, starting to share information. You've got disparate systems all over the place, and you've got visibility maybe from a reporting perspective, but from a technology perspective, they're completely independent. So, key benefits with Fortinet, it's scalable across the whole network, consistent security postures regardless of placement in the network, key location-specific features, and incremental investments supplement security capabilities. So you don't have to, have these huge upfront deployments and things like that. You can work on a strategy. Like Saki said earlier, you have to have a plan. You can't, I didn't see any hands come up really, I don't think any, when it started talking about security budgets or cyber security budgets. And we all know that, it is a problem when we start looking at financing these type of things. So it all starts from a Fortinet perspective with a FortiGate, which is our core technology. What makes the FortiGate an extremely cost-effective or a good solution is there's various deployments. We've got a huge portfolio of different sizes of technologies, virtual or physical type of deployments. We can do cloud firewalling, so we can do in the public cloud space. So if you're using Azure or AWS, you can do deployments in there. If you do VMware, Hyper-V, KVM, we can deploy in those type of environments as well. Internal segmentation. Now, internal segmentation, I think, is becoming a real reality. In the past, security is always a bottleneck to networks, right? So we've got high bandwidth, we've got a very fast switching infrastructure. Security starts laying that down. Now, the technologies are catching up to that, obviously at a cost, but it is possible to do that. Internal segmentation, at the end of the day, is going to really limit the exposure that you have if you do get compromised or you do get infected by some sort of malware. It gives you the capability of segmenting a compromised part of the network off the rest of the environment. Data center firewalling, the high speed, high throughput type of environments, next-gen firewalls that does intrusion prevention and detection internally, and then distributed firewalls where you can have remote branches, smaller type of sites where you can implement the same security that you do in a data center or the perimeter. So just to give a little bit of a view, if we start talking about the FortiGate's expanded capabilities, so we've actually have the smaller devices that has built-in wireless, and we've got wireless access points that actually integrates into the security platform. So when we start talking about a secure access architecture, I can take all my security controls that I can do on a perimeter or an internal segmentation firewall, and I can actually deploy that on the wireless section as well. So immediately when the guys connect to the wireless, I implement the same content filtering, antivirus scanning, intrusion prevention, botnet detection, all of those things on a wireless level. If we start talking about advanced threat protection, that's taking it a little bit further, is to say, hang on a second, what about these zero-day attacks, stuff that we do not know of? There's no signature, nobody's aware of this actual vulnerability or just yet. How do we know or justify or decide, is this thing malicious or not? Sandboxing is a term in the industry where a piece of software or code or attachment gets actually executed and ran through a virtual sandbox technology. So we actually execute that file. We look at the behavior. Does it write to the registry? Does it actually make internet calls and trying to contact known botnets, command and control servers? Then we can make a decision, is the file good or bad? And once we have made that decision, all the other technologies, if we talk about mail security, we're talking about web application security, all of that information immediately gets shared across the board. So from that perspective, you start having this collaboration between technologies. Right? When we start talking about management, and Saki also talked about the visibility, right? If you can't measure it, you can't show the value that you're actually doing something, it becomes very difficult to actually motivate the technology or the budget for this stuff. It's just how it works, right? Management or VC levels, the board wants to see, you know what, if we made the investment, are we actually achieving anything? So from a management perspective, We've got centralized management, so if you've got a huge distributed type of architecture, centralized management, and then logging and reporting, authentication. We can do the full onboarding from a wireless perspective, guest access, student enrollments, self-enrollment, those type of things as well, and full third-party integration. So just quickly on the security fabric, Fortinet has more than 40 products in our portfolio. Obviously the FortiGate, and a lot of the universities actually use the FortiGate for either perimeter or internal segmentation type of security, but we have a vast number of products, security-related products inside our portfolio as well. So, you know, we do things like application security, the secure access, which is our wireless technology, the enterprise firewalling, like I mentioned on the FortiGate, cloud security, being able to deploy these things in the public and private cloud spaces, and then the advanced threat protection, which is the actual sandboxing. SIM, from a security operations perspective, so to take all of these technologies and actually correlate the information, to actually understand, listen here, what is happening? We saw a whole lot of triggers happening on our perimeter firewall. The next moment, we've got an Active Directory server running at 100%, or things being shut down on the environment. It's the capability of correlating all these events, may it be from logs or actual SNMP information or WMI calls to the platforms to understand what is happening. It's really about getting a correlated view of the entire environment. So the security fabric, like I mentioned, you know, we've got a vast array of products, but the fabric story really at the end of the day is the disparate systems that we used to have in the past. The technologies will, you know, is still fairly separate because they're built for a certain function. But at the end of the day, it's really about the technology starting to share information. So if an endpoint or a firewall actually decides a firewall, a specific firewall, a specific file is malicious, all of the other technologies are immediately updated with that information as well. So, you know, it breaks that kill chain and simplifies the attack surface at the end of the day. So with seamless end-to-end security interwoven throughout the entire higher education environment, the balance between security and openness is upheld. And that's me. Are there any questions?
One
All
question
good.
here.
Guys, just quickly for the people that, Saki did touch on it this morning, it's made international news. If you go log on to CNN, any news site, you'll be fully aware of Petya. It is using the same or similar methods that WannaCry did about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But it's causing huge problems internationally. We've had in the Ukraine power plants going down, government systems being compromised. So it's using different attack vectors, but very similar ways or methods of spreading. It does get shared through Samba share, so if systems isn't patched, which strangely enough, the patch was released by Microsoft in March already. But a lot of people are not actually updating their systems, or you know, they've got this, it's working, don't touch it, leave it alone type of attitude. But it's causing big problems. It does also propagate through Windows file shares, or actually gets, not file shares, Office attachments like Excel, Word, and things like that. So if you want to read up on it, please guys go and have a look. We've got a blog going on it, but there's also what we call the Petra Central. We're just correlating globally from all the guys that's sharing information with regards to Petya. So keep an eye out for this. Don't get caught out. It is a ransomware. If you are infected, your machine is completely locked out. You can't recover your data, and it's going to cost you $300 to get it out. Don't know if they're going to actually open it for you or not.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, will you guys ever get to a point where you can guarantee after a file has been entered into the system via email or however it gets into your system, being sandboxed and then being flagged as malicious, a kind of a time frame that we can say, listen, within 2 hours, we'll know that that's kind of a malicious content and block it off? Or is that going to be dependent on the, forever dependent on the malicious type of the file?
Are you referring to once a file has been submitted to a sandbox to actually analyze it? Okay, so, you know, it depends. I mean, a sandbox doesn't just do the virtualization or the execution within a virtual environment. So there's, I think, around about 7 or 8 steps that happen. So there's an advanced antivirus database that the code is pushed through. If it still doesn't trigger, then it will go to the next step, which is a code emulation. So we start looking for specific code strings in it. After that, you know, there's various steps, like I say, about 7. The last step is actually executing inside of a virtual environment. So, you know, it can be a Windows VM, maybe XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, running Office, and then deciding what it is. So it depends on how long the process is to actually decide is that file. If it hit on the first trigger on the advanced antivirus database, or the second one with the code emulation, it could be 5 or 10 seconds, which then, like I mentioned earlier, within the fabric will immediately upload everything that is part of that fabric, but also that then gets submitted to our FortiGuard services, which in turn then updates globally everybody that subscribes to it. But that is a different approach, because a lot of guys will have, you know what, I don't want automated updates. I want to do all my updates at 12 o'clock at night. Where financial institutions, for example, they don't auto-update anything. They first execute it in a lab environment, see how it behaves, and then actually introduce it into a production environment. So it really depends on that process. Right.
Okay. Our time is up. Okay.
You said that the best case is a few seconds. What's the worst case for that process?
I think because there's some lab testing and things like that gets done by third-party analysis. I think that the average time was about 2.5 minutes, and the longest time I think was about 5, and that's across various vendors. Yeah.
Okay. Before you leave, sorry, William. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
But yeah, time is
Thanks,
really up.
everyone.
Well, I've got a survey. And give us feedback about the conference and give it back to us, please. Thank you.
Who wants to win a t-shirt? Okay. You come to the front, you type in your email address on have you been phoned. If your account has been compromised, you win this t-shirt. Can I illustrate it quickly for you? Entered, and I'll win the t-shirt because my private account has been compromised 3 times. I'm part of a 3.8 billion people out there whose accounts have been compromised. My Adobe account has been compromised. My Dropbox account has been compromised. And my LinkedIn account has been compromised. So if you're clean, you don't win the t-shirt. I only got one t-shirt. Or should we make it to a guy that's clean?
Just another announcement. If you want to know anything about the cybersecurity conference, please look for the people wearing these t-shirts that you can win.
Okay, so we got our first trial here. Yeah, you can use anyone, your private one. Sorry, you're clean. You don't win the t-shirt. So university account is clean?
Okay, next one. Yes, try your personal one. Just one account. Just one account. You won a t-shirt. Congratulations.
No, Gmail has never been seen.
No, Gmail's never been seen.
So you've been compromised, Ashley Madison. No, I'm joking. Here is Xbox account has been
And it's
compromised.
interesting because I don't use Xbox at all. So they created some kind of account for me where I'm not even using it.
It's RB Phone. It's run by Troy Hunt. And yes, please. You want to try your account? Yeah.
The one that you don't want.
At least that is not fun.
You never know. No, this has been running for many, many years, huh?
Have I been born?
If you find out you have been compromised,
Change your address.
just suggest
You've been compromised? You're going to scroll up? Dropbox account? Your LinkedIn account? Both has been compromised. Change your password. Okay.
and it's UKZN1.
Weet nie van die account killer stuur nie toe. Wat ek kom uitstuur vir die ouens nie, want ek wil dit ook begin doen.
Want dis nou verstaan Dropbox het ek dink 6 jaar laas gebruik.
Ja.
So ek verstaan dis hoekom my Dropbox op
Ja,
plek.
maar
Maar nou wil ek daai doodmaak.
Jy clean. Holland.
Let me check my email.
My Bitcoin. We can go to your own URL. Have I been